quick things I need to do to kind of get things rolling here. Let me just pull up Instagram. Instagram always takes a couple of seconds. Let me pull up the live stream on Substack, and then we will get to it, everyone. All right, so there's our live stream on Substack. Let's go live on Instagram. There's our live stream on Instagram. And let's take a look at Facebook and see if we're streaming there. We should be. And Facebook does look like it's streaming. Let me just pop that up. Let's go live on Instagram. And let me turn the sound off of Facebook because that's not going to help anybody. I mean, I'm not turning the sound off on those of you at Facebook. I'm just turning the sound off on Facebook for me because I'll just hear myself in an echo. And, that's going to be complicated. So I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all had a really good night. Oh, hang on, guys. I just have to put my... I'm going to play some video for you as well tonight. Hey, Katie, how are you? So I just have to put my headset in or else you guys aren't going to be able to... You're going to hear an echo and it's going to sound terrible. So bear with me for that. It's almost there. All right. It's an old-fashioned... all of this overpriced, borderline unnecessary equipment I have got myself a $15 Sony headset that seems to do the job fairly efficiently. Okay, so while we wait a moment for the live, I just have to make one more technical update, guys, and then we should be good to go. Hang on. I just have to make sure the sound comes through. There we go. From the video when I share it with you. All right. So now I've got everything straightened out. I think I have all the tech working right now. So I hope you're doing well today, everybody. I hope you had a good evening. And I know it was I know it's been an emotional roller coaster with this stupid, ridiculous war in Iran and with the village idiot, Donald Trump, telling us yesterday that, lying a couple days ago that he had 48 hours of negotiations that went very well with the Iranians, that we knew he was lying when he said it. And then there was plenty of subsequent reporting thereafter to confirm that he was lying about that. The U.S. apparently had reached out to the Pakistanis to be an intermediary. The Pakistanis have a good relationship or a relationship with the Iranians. The U.S. now has a relationship with the Pakistanis, thanks to Donald Trump. Whether or not that's good or bad, you can determine for yourself. But there's the whole idea that we had this interaction, these negotiations for 48 hours was absolutely nonsensical. It looks like there is an effort to negotiate now. The Iranians have flat out said although they've said that there are no negotiations going on, and they've rejected the village idiot Donald Trump's 15-point peace plan, and they have countered with their own peace proposal, both of which are unreasonable and ridiculous. Neither one of them are going to happen. But the thing that always strikes me as we're kind of moving through this war as an American electorate, those, from the perspective of the United States of America, it's always the absolute stupidity. Hey, Irish Aggie. Good morning. It's always the functional stupidity of Donald Trump. It's always the ridiculous lies that he makes up along the way, the nonsensical things, some of which make absolutely no sense, that he comes up with along the way. And I never really get it. I never really understand what drives him to say these things. I'm going to share a clip in just a moment, but I never am able to wrap my brain around what is it that drives him? Why there is no impulse control? Why he just has to come up with these meaningless, silly points to make. And some of them are dangerous and some of them are just asinine. And they make him look dumber than he already looks on his best day, right? On his best day, he looks like a raging imbecile. But some of these things that he comes up with, some of these things that he says, for no apparent reason whatsoever, just boggle the mind. And yesterday was one of them. And again, I don't think this was a. There are a lot of things that come out of the village idiot Donald Trump's mouth that I think are dangerous, that I think are potentially catastrophic. Um, and they trouble me, right? And I think it embarrasses the U.S. It puts lives in danger. It sometimes gets lives. Sometimes people die because of the horrible things and stupid things he says. But then there's these things that he comes up with that are just not particularly dangerous, but just remarkably fucking ridiculous. And yesterday was an example of that. So I'm going to play a clip for you. I want to play the bulk of the clip. Normally, I just play a couple seconds of it, just the dumb thing that he says. But this time, I want to play the whole 2.5-minute clip for you because maybe I don't get it. You know, it's happened. I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. So maybe I'm criticizing the village idiot unjustly. You can determine for yourself. But the punchline that you want to look for in this joke of a response that the village idiot comes up with to a reporter's questions. So the punchline in this joke of a response was when he starts to talk about a present. You may have heard about this already, but I did some posts on social media about it yesterday as well. So you may have caught this already, but I just had to talk about it this morning. So he's going to talk about the fact he's trying to make the case that Iran that these negotiations are happening. There are no negotiations happening yet. I think there are efforts by the Pakistanis to be the middleman, to facilitate negotiations. There was a 15-point plan, an asinine 15-point plan sent by the Trump administration to the Pakistanis. The Iranians, recognizing how fucking stupid it was, sent their own absolutely ridiculous response to that. Their plan, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But I'm sure the Iranians were just mocking the U.S. plan with their counter proposal because the U.S. plan was so ridiculous to end the war. But there are no negotiations. I believe the Iranians, it's a weird thing to say, over the Americans, right, at this point, over my country, over my president. I believe the people we are at war with, which is a weird way to think, but I just have to be sincere about what the truth is. And although both countries lie, the Iranians are a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump ever could be. And secondly, his lies are so useless and pointless and asinine that there's no reason for the Iranians to lie in response to his lies. All they need to do is magnify and respond to his lie the way a normal person would. That's all they have to do, right? Just respond. But in this clip, the idiot talks about the fact to try to push the point forward, I guess, that negotiations are really happening, even though they're not, right? The idiot and tries to push this point forward that the Iranians sent him a present, and it was a very expensive present. And it's certainly the dumbest thing he said that I've heard him say this week. So without further ado, let me play this clip.
We have really regime change. You know, this is a change in the regime because the leaders are all very different than the ones that we started off with that created all those problems. So this was, I think we can say, Jason, this is regime change, right?
What makes you trust them?
Now, I'm going to interrupt because this is a longer clip, so I can interrupt. Now, I don't know who Jason is. I don't know if Jason is the reporter who's challenging the idiot right now, or if Jason is just some guy that we don't know who he is. But when Donald is lying and making shit up, he's making up the fact that we've created regime change. We haven't. Regime change is when the regime is gone. It's the same regime that was there before. It's actually what is it, the son-in-law or the son of the Ayatollah who was killed, right? So it's the son or son-in-law. And there's been ample reporting to suggest that that person is more extreme than his father was, right? That he's even more of an extremist. And now his father, from his perspective, his father has been martyred and he's ready to be martyred if necessary. So it's likely not only did we not, and all the major, whoever wasn't killed, we have all of all of the original leaders that are still alive are still in place. The Iranian military is still in place. The IRGC is still in place. The people of Iran are not free. There has been no regime change. But I guess to just whenever he's making some shit up, he always asks somebody, "Isn't that right, Marco? It's a great point. Isn't that right, Marco? Can you say a few words, Carolyn? Isn't that? Oh, that's right, Carolyn." He's always saying that. So again, now is Jason the reporter who's challenging him? I don't know. Or is Jason just some guy?
I don't trust anybody. I don't trust you. I mean, that's only because I know you. But if I didn't know you, I'd probably have more trust.
I'm sure he doesn't know the reporter that he's talking to, by the way. But let me continue.
But I don't trust anyone.
Why bother?
Why do you say that? Why do you say what makes you trust? Do you think I trust them? I don't trust them.
Then why bother talking to them?
Because they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
So, right. So, when I first saw the clips of this, I didn't see him say this live. But when I first saw the clips of this idiot saying this, what came to mind again, which comes to mind not infrequently for me, if you have kids or if you're around kids, when they're, once they get old enough that they maybe 5-6 years old, right, that they're really kind of aware of what's going on, and they begin they tell the truth as much as they can, but they don't know any better and they lie. And then when they, as young children, when they lie and you catch them as a grown-up, right, as a parent, you say to the kids, all right, you're lying now. And then this will go on until they're 9 and 10, because it can be sometimes a challenge to teach your kids. It took us a while to teach our son not to do this. And then what they do is they just come up with the most ridiculous and outlandish things to justify the lie. And it's a child's mind, and which is wonderful. The child's mind is innocent and it's full of imagination and opportunity. And that doesn't, even when they're doing something that we may want to teach them not to do, it's still, you can almost marvel at the shit that a kid can come up with, right? To justify whatever bullshit they're telling you. And my son is 10 now, and I see with his friends, some of them have outgrown this and some of them haven't. And the ones that haven't outgrown it, at 10 years old, it is remarkable. The stories, the unrelated bullshit stories that they can come up with to justify when they're lying, especially to get out of trouble, right? I'm used to seeing that with children. And they're good at it, right? But still, as a grown-up who sees liars, who was a liar as a kid, and sees liars all the time, we get really good at recognizing liars. You know what I mean? Hey, Gamer Vet Dad, how are you? We get really, hey, Lacey, we get really adept at recognizing liars. But I'm not used to seeing it, again, even though it's been happening for 10 years with a 79-year-old man, right? I know this is deja vu for many of you who come to my lives all the time, because I'm always sometimes stunned by the absolute stupidity and childlike, not childlike in innocence, just childlike immaturity, young childlike immaturity that this devolved individual comes up with, right? He's so bad at it. Like he's such a dunce on the one hand, and he's so emotionally defective. He is so severely mentally ill. He is so remarkably emotionally incapacitated that he is incapable of coming up with a intelligent, creative lie to justify whatever babbling bullshit that he wants to make the point. And so the point that he's trying to make here, that the idiot is trying to make here, is that because he has been cosplaying as a businessman and a deal maker forever, when the reality is he's a con man and a moron, right? He's just who has been protected his entire life by smarter, wealthier people than him for whatever reason, because it was beneficial to him, and that's still happening here now when he's president of the United States. So he's always pretending to be something he's not. But he's pretending here to be the deal maker, and he's trying to convince us and Jason, whoever the hell Jason is, they want to make a deal. They're gonna make a deal, right? And in order to justify this bullshit that Iran wants to make a deal, he comes up with this fucking off the cuff babbling bullshit. They sent us a present. It was a very good present. It was very big, very worthwhile. Very expensive present. It's a great present. Do you have it? Everybody should get this present. And again, I watch it, and I've seen it so many times, guy. Like, we've all seen it so many times, but I still can't fucking believe it. I can't believe that this idiot is president for a second time, and he's saying this. Like, even if he wasn't, I'm going to play the clip for you one more time, because again, I think we just all need to reinforce that this really happened. If my job, I've said this a million times, if I have any job during this Trump administration, everybody's informing you about the news. Everybody. You have independent media, you have legacy media, and they're doing a much better job than I'll ever do with that. My singular job, to inform you about the news, of course. But what I think the one thing that I'm doing that may be unique is I'm always reminding you that we're going to be okay, because this is a fucking idiot, right? We are living in an SNL skit in real time. Never forget, as dangerous and catastrophic as the Trump administration always is, as Donald Trump always is, that he is a bumbling, blundering, mentally incapacitated imbecile. And therefore, what saves us, what will save our democracy, what's been saving us, is his stupidity, and the stupidity of the people around him, or the pretend stupidity of the people around him. Because the people surrounding him either have to be nearly as dumb as him. That's really hard to achieve, because that bar is extraordinarily high. Donald Trump has two superpowers, and it's stupid and crazy. He is superhuman when it comes to being stupid and crazy. He's like a cartoon character. It can't be real, but it is. So the people surrounding him either have to be almost as stupid and crazy as him, or they have to pretend to be. And then that expands out to beyond his cabinet, beyond the sycophants in the White House, but expands out to nearly every single Republican in the Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives in most instances. So that's why I often refer to chicken shit GOP senators and crazy and pretend crazy GOP members of the House, because I think that so perfectly encapsulates who they are and what they have become. So it's important for me to take this moment in my efforts to inform and share my thoughts, to remind you all that he's an idiot and this is fucking ridiculous. Let me play this clip for you again. I'm just going to backtrack a little bit.
Mr. President.
Oh, let's go over let's listen to the present again.
They're going to make a deal. They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not going to tell you what that present is, but it was a very significant prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
Is that nuclear related?
No, it wasn't nuclear related.
All right, guys, and now so we heard it again, and I just so we're informed, and because I really stopped listening yesterday at that point, I'm just going to play the last minute and 9 seconds of this clip, just to hear what else is said in this particular nonsensical conference. So let's listen together and get a feel for what else he's talking about.
It was oil and gas related, and it was a very nice thing they did. But what it showed me is that we're dealing with the right people. Because, you don't know, because the leadership was killed, all gone.
So I can't control myself. So now Donald is in full. This is a full lying mode, right? This is where when he starts doing the accordion hands. Anthony Scaramucci, who was Donald Trump's director of communications for 11 days during his first administration, Anthony Scaramucci, has come onto the right side of history now, and he's pro democracy now. He often talks about the fact when you start seeing the accordion hands, right? When he got to know Trump, when you start seeing the accordion hands, that's when you know he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And he's just rambling. Like part of when Donald improvises is just, so the accordion hands are starting now, and he's going to go into this whole nonsensical story about how we got it. We killed them all. They're all gone. They're all dead. We killed them all, but we're dealing with the right people. We got the right. They sent me a very nice present. It's a beautiful present. It's a big, expensive present. And I know that now we're dealing with the right people. And it's all, I want you to keep in mind as we watch this 1 minute and 20 seconds left, that this is all a charade. It's all, or I think I have the time went the wrong way. As we have about 2 minutes 35. So we have about 1 minute and 10 seconds left of this clip. As we watch this, he's making this all up as he goes along.
Khomeini, all gone, as the expression goes, the past supreme leader. And then the new supreme leader was racked up, at a minimum racked up pretty good. And everyone else was gone. And then many of the people in the third tier are gone. But we're dealing with a group of people that I think turn out, and the present, the gift they made to us was very significant. And they said they were going to do it, and it happened. And they're the only ones that could have done it. Jennifer?
Was it related to the Strait of Hormuz and the flow of...
Yeah, it was related to the flow and to the strait. Yeah, it was.
And again, he just got, this is again this is the childlike stuff I keep talking about. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, but she said something that, seemed good, right? And was it related to the Strait of Hormuz? Yeah, of course. It was, yes, it was a beautiful present from the Strait of Hormuz. It was they just, and again, imagine those of us that are parents or if, around kids. Imagine look at the way, even look at his expression, look at the way he looks. This is how you can tell he devolved. He stopped growing. He stopped evolving as a child. Mary Trump, his niece, goes into this in depth in her first book, where she talks about the Trump family, and she talks about how the village idiot Donald Trump, how his father was a sociopath and how the mother was unfortunately very sick. And even when during the times that she wasn't sick, she was very disassociated from his life, and how Trump started to develop, and he was a toddler at this point. And he started to develop these sociopathic tendencies over a period of years, which really came from the fact that he was basically ignored, in essence, by his parents, by his mother. These are not making up excuses, but Mary is a psychologist, and she kind of psychoanalyzes her uncle in her particular book. And you can see the point that I'm making here is that that when he was, as he was a little kid and he was devolving emotionally, and he was starting to develop his mental illness, whether it's malignant narcissism or whatever his eventual diagnosis, if there ever is one, is, there can be a point early in childhood where you just stop developing mentally as either a defense mechanism or I should say emotionally as a defense mechanism or a reaction to the environment you're going in. But you can see, just look at the way he's standing there. Look at the way he's looking, right? He, in this image here, in this shot, I think it's so indicative of, I know this is an armchair psychoanalysis from a schmuck in his room. In my little office. So I get it. I wish my wife was here because she's the mental health professional and she could kind of, extrapolate on that. But you can just kind of see, right, where the child is here, listening to the things he says, looking at the way he looks, and then just when that reporter asks that question, like a child who doesn't know where she or he is going with their argument, they just take the cue from whoever's asking them a question, whoever's reprimanding them, who's ever holding them accountable in that moment. They take the cue, and if that cue is something that can be used to bolster their argument, they take advantage of it because they don't know and they don't have the maturity or the self-awareness to realize that everybody around you knows that you don't know. And unfortunately, with this idiot, he's surrounded by sycophantic weirdos, and he always has been, who don't tell him that he doesn't know. And because he evolved to a devolved presidency twice, he's surrounded in many ways and protected by millions of sycophantic Americans who, by voting for him, don't tell him that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I digress. Let's see. I promise you guys, we're going to get through this last minute or so if I could just keep my mouth shut. And you're right, Gail, he does not care.
Negotiating on who's going to control the strait from now on?
No, we'll have control of anything we want.
Support journalism.
All right, so that was it. So it was another 2 or 3 seconds of that. It wasn't another minute. By the way, I streamed this from PBS News today, just because it seemed like a good idea. So all that being said, let's look at a couple of updates, okay? So, I lost my image here. Let me see if I can get a restream on it. Hang on. Let me see if I can pull this up. All right, guys, just bear with me for a second. Okay. So, all that being said, in reality, the actual real story, now that reporters and journalists and actual foreign governments have caught up with the reality to juxtapose against the delusion that is Donald Trump's perspective. So as I said, it looks like the Pakistanis when the Village Idiots started making the announcement that we've been having talks for 48 hours and lying about it, the Pakistanis saw this as an opportunity, right? They decided to come up and try to be the intermediary. Remember, I don't know that Pakistan is the best country to be doing this right now because they're involved in their own skirmish, in their own mini war with the Afghanis right now. But that's another story for another day. The news doesn't seem to give a shit. No one in the media is covering this. You really have to dig deep to follow what's going on in the Pakistan-Afghan pseudo war right now. But irrespective, this country that's at war is the country that has placed themselves up to be the intermediaries to try to somehow bring a peaceful conclusion to the stupid war that we find ourselves in now. And the reason that the Pakistanis are doing this is, if they can succeed at doing this, it'll bolster their position internationally. It'll make them a lot stronger in their ongoing Cold War and sometimes pseudo-hot war with India, which is sort of the big war that Pakistan is always facing and the Indians are always facing at any given moment. Also, the Pakistanis have been cultivating and manipulating the village idiot Donald Trump since the summer. If you remember, there was the Pakistanis and the Indians were on the verge of war over the summer. Kashmir, it was over the skirmish in Kashmir. It's always over Kashmir. I mean, it's over bigger issues, but Kashmir is always the hot zone between the two countries. There were actual attacks. The Pakistanis were sending drones into India. India was sending their fighter jets into Pakistan. There were limited attacks. And at first, J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, who we don't see or hear about anymore, had had said this isn't our war, we're not getting involved with it. And then there was subsequent reporting that Susie Wiles, the chief of staff in the White House, was like, "What the fuck? You better fucking get involved in it, you dipshits, because if this turns into a massive regional war with 2 nuclear power players, it could be bad for the U.S." So then Marco Rubio, little Marco, and J.D. Vance apparently started making phone calls. They achieved absolutely nothing. The Indians and the Pakistanis sort of worked it out themselves. The village idiot came out, almost screwed up the ceasefire that the Pakistanis and the Indians had by announcing it before it was publicly announced by either of those countries, and saying that we taking credit for it. Say, "Hey, Tina, how are you?" Saying that that we did it. It was never us. The Indians later came out and said it had nothing to do with the Americans. The Pakistanis, though, saw an opportunity. They were like, well, we're fighting with India. The U.S. has been leaning toward India ever since Osama bin Laden came onto the scene, and ever since the Obama got Osama bin Laden because he was basically hiding in plain sight in Pakistan. Right. So the Pakistanis were like, this is an opportunity. So they kind of kissed the village idiot's ass a little bit. They told him, they said how he was the one that stopped the war, the potential war between Pakistan and India. They told, one of the generals, a Pakistani general who is perceived by the Indians to be the ultimate villain. He talked about how the village idiot should get the Nobel Peace Prize. The idiot invited him to the White House. So the Pakistanis, like the Russians, like the Chinese, like Sharia Kleinbaum in Mexico, they began their manipulation of our moron in the White House. They began to flatter him, manipulate him, and they began the process of slowly use it, like the rest of the world is doing, slowly figuring out how they can utilize this idiot for their own benefit. And now that moment has arrived. They befriended him to the point where now that he lied and made up all this bullshit about negotiating with Iran because he's in so much political trouble, because 75% of the American public, or 60%, I can't remember exactly what the polling was, are against this war because gas prices are so high, because we're losing military service members. We have scores injured and a couple of handfuls dead because of this idiot. Because the war is an unstrategic clusterfuck, because it is clear that Hegseth doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, that Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck they're doing more, that things that even you and I would have thought to do before we went to war, like, I don't know, filling up the strategic reserves, because we would know that the strategic oil reserves, because we would know, I don't know, the Iranians, for 40 years, we've been planning for the Iranians to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. I don't know. Maybe we would have planned a little bit better. But because he knows he's in such political trouble and all he cares about is himself, the Pakistanis saw this opportunity when he lied about the 48 hours of negotiations that were going very well. And they jumped in because they've been sort of grooming the idiot for this moment. And if they can broker peace between the U.S. and Iran, and potentially even Israel, that will elevate them exponentially on the world stage, and they can matter more. And it certainly will put them in a better position as they look for international support going forward in the ongoing disagreement, Cold War, occasional hot war with India. So they're the ones that are supposedly negotiating the peace with them. So the idiot sends them this 15-point peace, plan for ending the war. And I don't have the plan in front of me, but if I recall the reporting, it had everything from getting rid of their ballistic missile program, getting rid of all their enriched uranium, allowing the U.S. to be partners with them in managing the Strait of Hormuz. There were 15 points that were just, and again, I'm no fan of the Iranians, but it was almost laughable when you saw all of the demands that the U.S. was requiring of the Iranians, because it's like. It was like going in to negotiate, a car that's worth $12,000, and you're starting out, trying to sell the car for $110,000. Like it was laughable. And the Iranians then subsequently responded to that with an equally fucking ridiculous, set of requirements to end the war, knowing it's so crazy. They did it knowing that they are militarily non-competitive, right? That's the real crazy thing. They are militarily non-competitive. They cannot beat the U.S. and Israel militarily in this war. But unless we engage, as we've all learned now, in a fairly intense, incredibly dangerous, long-winded ground war with the Iranians, this isn't going to end. And the Iranians although they can't outflank us and out-strategize us militarily because we don't have dumbasses, in our military leadership structure. We might have a psychopath, a MAGA psychopath, in terms of General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who what got him the job was the fact that he wore a MAGA hat and that he said he would kill for Donald Trump, right? So we might have a nut job, but he's not incompetent. And then the military leaders who haven't resigned or been fired yet beneath him are not incompetent. And obviously we have a lot more firepower, a lot more military power. It's being used. I learned in my interview with Ken Harbaugh yesterday, which I'm going to pitch to you guys in just a moment. It's a must-see interview that I want you guys to go onto my Substack and check out. I learned that the economics of the war in terms of the military equipment and the drones are an absolute disastrous clusterfuck for the U.S. as opposed to Iran. But even though the Iranians can't compete militarily, they have destroyed Donald Trump and his administration economically. Let me repeat it. They have destroyed Donald Trump and his administration economically. And they have been able to do it with knowledge that we've had for almost 40 years. They have been able to do it by shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. Most of us didn't even, we might have known about the Straits of Hormuz, 3 weeks ago, but we didn't think about it. We probably couldn't have even been certain where, exactly where in the Middle East it was, who was in charge of it. I know I wasn't knowledgeable. I was ignorant to the details of the Straits of Hormuz 3 weeks ago. But now I know lots of stuff about it because of this fucked up invasion. And I know how economically imperative it is for the world, right? For the fucking world. I wouldn't have known that. I was ignorant to this, but I know that. The Iranians knew that. Our military planners knew that. Pete Hegseth didn't know that. Donald Trump couldn't have known that. How that's possible that these idiots didn't know that. How that's possible that General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, how that's possible that General Kane did not communicate that effectively and threatened to resign if there wasn't a plan to do something about the Straits of Hormuz, makes me question not just his leadership, but his competency as well. Because I know now, and I certainly know after talking to Ken yesterday, that the U.S. military sure as fuck knew about this, and that, that most people, competent people in our government, even the ones who haven't been fired yet, knew about this. Even many of the dumb fucks, right? And the crazies knew about this. Chicken shit GOP senators, Senator John Thune, Senator John Kennedy, Senator Josh Hawley, Senator Mike Lee, Senator Ted Cruz, right? All of those, Senator Joni Ernest, Senator Lisa Murkowski, Senator Collins from Maine, all of these fucking Republicans, they knew this. They knew about the Straits of Hormuz. Marco fucking Rubio, right? The Secretary of State. I know Rubio has sold his spirit, his soul, his dignity, his intellect, and his conscience to Donald Trump. But underneath that charade, that performance that Rubio puts on, that have afforded him the opportunity to lose his soul and his spirit, to kiss the ass of a moron every day? He knows this. He was the ranking member of the Senate was it I can't remember if it was the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Fact check me on it. It was he was the ranking member. He may have been the chair at one point of Gamer Vet Dad. What was he? I know you know this. What was he? Which committee was he? Either a ranking member of a chair. Again, I think it was foreign relations. I don't. But he had to know that the Iranians' strategy, if the U.S. were to attack them, was going to be to shut down the Straits of Hormuz. He had to know this. But yet, he allowed this to happen. It is... I mean, I'm off on a tangent now, so I forgot what the fuck I'm talking about, but this is nothing. It's been a while since I've kind of gotten, lost in my words this badly where I'm Gamer Vet Dad, Marco Rubio. When Rubio was a senator, what was he on the was he like a ranking member or the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee? I can't think of what committee it is, but there's no possible way that Rubio didn't know what was going to happen right now, and that Donald Trump would find himself in this position today where he so desperately needs an off-ramp, and because of the economic catastrophe that he created, that everyone knew was going to be the strategy of the Iranians. Foreign relations. So it was foreign relations. Thank you, Gamer Vet Dad. I had thought it was, but I wasn't sure. Thank you for keeping me honest on that. So anyway, I'm on a tangent. It's 11:56. I'm trying to keep these lives to 45 minutes because I know they're going too long. So let me just stop all that because, I am so frequently the naysayer of gloom and doom. And I'm often so, frustrated, irate, and disgusted with all things in the Trump administration. Is my that I want to bring you some updates about the Florida elections, but I think my oh come on, I think my streaming software is frozen. Not frozen. I don't think I can move from scene to scene for some reason. Hang on, guys. Just bear with me for a second here. Yep, I am stuck at this scene. All right. Well, I can fix that. Hang on, guys. Don't go anywhere. Let me find my Florida election page, and I'll just bring it into the scene, and everything will be fine. Because I'm such a because I bring you such frustrating news all the time. Because, maybe you guys are starting to think that I'm glass half full. Maybe you guys are starting to think Mitch, he tries to inform us. He's always frequently in a mood. He wants to, convince everybody that Donald Trump is an idiot so we have hope, right? That's not the most positive way I know to convince you to be hopeful. But can Mitch ever deliver any fucking good news? I can. Sometimes. Certainly today. The good news is that Democrats are going to win the midterm elections, hands down. I am so tired of this fucking narrative that we're seeing and I'm going to talk about Florida in 2 seconds. I am so tired of this asinine narrative that we're seeing in legacy media and even in independent media. This asinine narrative that you have to be afraid of the midterms, that you have to be fearful because Republicans might somehow pull the midterms out. Republicans are not going to pull the fucking midterms out. That doesn't mean we don't work our asses off. That doesn't mean you don't get behind your favorite candidate. That doesn't mean you try to convince your MAGA aunt and uncle to vote for, how bad Donald Trump is. And even if you hate Democrats, to vote for a Democrat just to save the country. It doesn't mean that you don't put in the time. It never means that, and nor will it mean that, because nobody's going to bail on the midterm elections now. Nobody who cares about democracy. So that line of bullshit that you have to be scared is just clickbait. It's clickbait to get you guys to come and watch my feed, watch my, my lives. I admit it, right? I want to continue to build, my social media space, and I want to build this into a very successful business, as well as my efforts to help save democracy. I admit that. But all of the negativity about the elections is clickbait. All the shit that you're seeing on legacy media, I've had it with it. It's all to get you to be afraid that maybe Democrats will win the House, and we can't be sure about the Senate. Stop it. Fucking stop it. Ever since the idiot was inaugurated on January 20th, in every election of note, even the ones where the Democrats lost, they have overperformed by a minimum of 8%, 6 to 8%, and sometimes maximums of like 30%, sometimes 30%, 30 to 35% in Republican fucking districts, deep red districts in red states. And it's happened over and over and over again. I was even, I know better. And still, those of you who were with me during the governor's election here in New Jersey, with Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli, the MAGA nut, who was sometimes a MAGA nut and sometimes he wasn't, depending on how he wanted to get elected, right? I was sweating that election for months, right? The polling was showing that there was a 3% difference in times. And I would say to you guys, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? If I didn't live in New Jersey and I didn't have to deal with the consequences of having this MAGA nut, Jack Ciattarelli, potentially become our governor, I would be telling people in New Jersey, don't worry. There's no reason the trend of Democrats winning across the board over and over and over and over and over and over and over again is going to end in fucking New Jersey. But because I lived in New Jersey and I had skin in the game and I'm a nervous Nelly, I was still sweating it. I was dying on election night until about 8:45 p.m. when Decision HQ finally called it, and I was like, thank God. And then I still couldn't let it go, right? I went on to MS Now, which was still MSNBC, I think, at the time, and I had to wait for them to call it, right? For NBC News to call it. And then I was like, okay. And that didn't happen until like 10:30 or 11 o'clock that night. And she won by 13 points, right? It was a blowout. It happens over and over and over again. And I do hear you, Lacey. If they pass the SAVE Act, we might still have a problem. Yes, but we won't. And I promise you that, Lacey. And first of all, they're never going to pass the SAFE Act. The way they're working their way around the SAFE Act right now is they're not going to pass the SAFE Act. John Thune, unless he changes his mind, is not going to get rid of the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act. And the deal that Democrats are trying to work out, the deal to open up DHS, so the THS agents get paid. The deal that looks like it's on the table that's probably going to go through is that Democrats are going to agree to fund every other agency, which they've already done 9 times, including not THS. What the fuck? What's the acronym? I can't believe I can't think of it now for the airport screeners. It's just not. I don't know why I have a brain fart right now. But the deal is TSA. Deal will be an open TSA to open FEMA everywhere else, and not fund ICE. And Customs and Border Patrol. And then the Republicans are going to try to use, later on in the year, they're going to try to use reconciliation to fund ICE and to subsequently try to integrate some aspects, some watered down version of the SAVE Act. Now, that probably, there's a good chance that won't happen. There's a good chance the Senate parliamentarian won't allow that because reconciliation is only for budgeting. And that would be a stretch to say voting is budgeting in terms of the SAVE Act part. But at the same time, I almost feel like let them do it. Let them fund ICE and let them try to take away our fucking right to vote 2 months before the midterms. Go for it, Senate Republicans. I dare you. And Donald Trump, go for it. You'll turn the blue tsunami into a mega tsunami. Go for it. And that's why, so anyway, irrespective, for whatever that's worth, Lacey, I don't know if that helps you feel better or worse because I'm wrong a lot, right? But I don't see I don't see any. And if you look at these results from Florida yesterday, I do not see a reality where the trend has been consistent since the idiot was inaugurated. It has been consistent. It hasn't changed. It hasn't deviated. Donald Trump has only gotten worse. He has now gotten us into a fucking war that if it ends, God willing, if it ends, we will have accomplished absolutely nothing in it. If this war ends next week, God willing it does, and it doesn't go the other way where it escalates and we put ground troops on the ground, and God willing it ends. If it ends, it will have been completely pointless. And then the idiot's going to go into Cuba or not. We still have the Epstein files cover up. We still have the fucking brutal economy with the asinine tariffs. They haven't gone away. We still have all the rest of the dumb fuckery that this idiot's going to get involved in between now and the election. I don't really fear the SAVE Act or some version of it saving Republicans. Americans are done. I've said it over and over again. The politics of the village idiot Donald Trump were over a long time ago. What I worried about, what I still worry about is the authoritarian coup, and I still worry about that. I'll worry about that a little less when he's not at 36% approval rating, when he's in the 20s across the board all the time, with the exception of Republicans, and we will get there, I believe. But to be fearful of election outcomes of the midterms is almost to deny reality. I think it's the pro-democracy equivalent of denying climate change, right? We see the results of climate change, right? But a lot of people just don't, irrespective of what they see with their eyes and they hear with their ears, they just can't face it because it's too scary. So they bury their heads in the sand and they ignore it. And I understand. I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm not saying that to be to really upset anyone. But we as Democrats are, and as pro-democracy folks who may not even be Democrats, independents, normal, sane Republicans, we have become so accustomed to getting our asses kicked and to dealing with the potentiality of autocracy. We're so afraid that it's almost that we don't want to, that at this point we're so shell-shocked, we don't want to face the reality that the cold hard data, because just in case things go wrong, that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms, and they're going to lose the midterms bigly, very bigly. And there is nothing short of a full-on coup and martial law, right? And full-on election interference, which the courts have done a fairly decent job protecting us from. Not so much the Supreme Court, but we'll see. There's no reason to expect that that's going to change unless Donald Trump becomes sane. And there's no, between now and then, and there's no reason to expect that Donald Trump will become sane. So I think we're going to be okay. The only question is whether it's going to be a massive blue wave, or whether it's going to be a controlled blue wave, where we just sort of take control and we have a little bit more of a majority in the House, in the Senate, and a larger majority in the House. Or is it going to be a massive blue wave, which which all political pundits would disagree with me. I don't see any reason at this point where you don't see a couple of handfuls of upsets in the Senate in red Republican districts. Think Iowa, right? Think Montana, right? Think North and South Carolina, right? I don't see any reason why you don't have upsets in these places, because people are so fucking fed up with Trump, and we don't get a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. It may not happen. I'm not certain of that, but I don't think it's impossible. Gamer Vet Dad, nothing can stop the elections unless 2/3 of the House pass a constitutional amendment and 39 states vote for removing voting rights. Thank you for that clarity as well, Gamer. I appreciate it. So what time is it? A little after 12. So I'm running a little late. Let me stop babbling and go over the actual news, though. Okay, so Florida Democrats flipped 2 seats in special legislative election in a shocker of a night. No, it's not a shocker of a night. It just hasn't happened in Florida in a couple decades. But we've never had fucking Donald Trump. So it's not a shocker of a night. It's expected. If anything else happened, that would have been a surprise. In a shocker of a night, Democrat Brian Nathan defeated Republican Josie Tomkow in Senate District 14 by 408 votes. Florida Democrats flipped 2 legislative seats on Tuesday in their biggest election in years. In the only Senate election on the ballot, Brian Nathan, a Navy vet, union organizer, and first-time candidate, shocked Republicans Rep. Josie Tomkow in the Hillsborough County Senate District 14 contest, winning by just 408 votes, taking 50.25% of the vote, as opposed to Tomkow's 49 3/4. Tomkow had a huge fundraising lead over Nathan. I think Allison Gill, who is, if you don't subscribe to Allison's Substack, you must. Allison Gill, I think she wrote after the, I think I saw she posted in notes on Substack, or maybe on Blue Sky, I don't remember, but something along the lines of take your big money and shove it up your ass, or something like that. It was great. After Tomkow, after Nathan had won that election. And I just want to see the swing here. I think it was like an 8-point swing or an 11-point swing. So Trump had won. Nathan was a heavy favorite in the district that Collins won. So originally Collins won by 10 points in the last election. Nathan now won it. So Nathan won it. So that's a 10-point swing. And in Palm Beach, in the Village Idiots, in Donald Trump's district, Representative-elect Emily Gregory beat the Republican. It was a seat formerly held by Mike Caruso, one of Ron DeSantis' closest allies in the House, whom he elevated to the county clerk position of county clerk last summer. Caruso won the seat by 19 points in 2024. 2024 wasn't that long ago. And it was a 51-49% victory. So you're talking about almost a 19-point swing in that, and this isn't like Trump won it by more than 10 points, but Trump wasn't on the ballot, right? It was a state election. So it was a 19-point swing, right? It wasn't a 10-point swing. And that is consistent. That is consistent with the data. That is consistent with what was been happening over and over and over again. If we scroll down a little bit more, there was a third race where the Republican won in Polk County. I think they won. There was a little drama there though, because the percentage was 8 percentage points. The district went for Donald Trump by 13 points. In 2024, I would be curious so that alone though is a 5-point swing. It's a 5-point overperformance for Democrats. It was a 5-point underperformance for the Republican. But the bigger story would be, and I don't know what it is, what the swing was the last time that the Republican won that actual seat, not what Donald Trump did. So I would be curious. And Tina and Gail, I'm catching your comments as I'm sort of babbling and looking at the thread. I get it. I get it. I think we're all terrified of an authoritarian. And I'm not trying to deny anyone their fears and their feelings, I'm not telling anyone, you guys, suggesting you repress your fears. Look, and I'm not saying that nothing's impossible, right? Trump is president twice, right? Americans are capable of any kind of dumb fuckery, clearly. So I apologize if this is coming across as if I'm denying your legitimate concerns, or if it feels like I'm attacking a logical deduction that if it happened twice, it could sure as hell happen again, right? So,
my apologies if I came across that way. It's not what my intent was. My intent is to, and I'll just, if it's any consolation or if it's any comfort, I'll just keep saying this over unless something weird happens until the midterms. It's that my intent is really just to get my point across that it's that what we're feeling doesn't match what's happening. My wife, it doesn't match what's happening on the ground. And my wife always tells me something. My wife, you guys have met her in the Wellness Lives, which by the way, we have one this Sunday with Patty Ann and Ritu again at 11. But what my wife always tells me when I'm struggling or I'm stressing about something, and there's something that's really bothering me, she always says to me, first thing you have to ask yourself, is it true? I'll complain about, I'm in the chorus program right now, and it's been a couple of months, and the Substack isn't growing as much as I wanted to. This, that, and the other thing, and I'll complain about it. I'm really scared. What happens when the program ends? What if I haven't grown? And she would say to me, well, first of all, is your fear true? Is what you're saying true? Have you not grown? And then, no, I have grown, so that's not true. So it's always important. I think it's such a great tool. It's always important to ask ourselves when we're stressing about something, is the thing we're stressing about actually true? Or are we just stressing about feelings associated with that thing? But when we actually ask ourselves honestly, is the thing we're stressing about true? It might not be. And if it is, then you deal with that at other levels. But if the facts don't match the feelings, then I think it's okay to give yourself permission to work on the feelings. And in this case, and again, I'm absolutely open if you guys disagree with me. I get it. But from my perspective, in this moment, the facts don't match the feelings. The facts on the ground of election results, which are far a far better predictor of election outcomes than polls are. Election results don't match. I have feelings of awful. I have terrible feelings and thoughts about Democrats not winning the House and the Senate. I have terrible feelings about a Trump third term, all kinds of things. But at least when it comes to the midterms, I'm able to. I constantly ask myself that question: do the facts on the ground match the feelings that I'm having? And they don't. And at least the way I see the facts, they don't. And when I see that, I'm able to say to myself, all right, I'm no longer going to entertain the feelings because they don't serve me. So that's just my thoughts on it. And I'll keep talking about this, and we can keep talking about this as a community too. Because if nothing else, even if I'm wrong, there's no reason to suffer the loss before it happens. But I don't expect that to happen. Anyway, on that note, guys, I've got to wrap the live because I was supposed to end at 12. I didn't. Again. But so I'm gonna wrap the live up in a couple seconds here. I just want to pitch. I had this incredible interview with Ken Harbaugh yesterday. It's on the Substack right now. Please, if you have a chance, listen to it or watch it. It's I'm thankful for every interview I've had so far. They've all been remarkable. I've interviewed lots of remarkable people so far. Ken's is just so timely. He is a former U.S. Navy pilot, and he spent time embedded with an Iranian drone. I mean, not an Iranian, a Ukrainian, a group of Ukrainian heroes who are soldiers who are, they're drone hunters. They shoot down drones that are being sometimes dozens of drones every day. Ken did a short form documentary of that experience. He also really knows drones. He's an expert on drone warfare. In addition to talking about Ukraine and what he experienced there and what's going on in Ukraine, there's a through line to the war in Iran. There's a through line. The drones are the through lines. The Iranians are using basically the same drones on us that the Russians are using on the Ukrainians. They originally bought those drones. They make them themselves now, but they originally bought those drones from the Iranians. They're cheap drones. They're $20,000, $30,000 drones that the Iranians are shooting at us, that they have thousands of, that they have the ability to make many more of, that we are using $1 million interceptor missiles to knock down. There's a weird economic wackadoodleness to how we're both executing this war, the U.S. and the Iranians. The U.S. is wasting a lot of money and resources because they refuse to learn from the Ukrainians who have offered their services. And it's really just an incredible experience speaking with Ken. And I really, really hope you guys, if you have a chance, you'll go on and you'll listen to that interview. If you are from one of the other socials, from Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, please come over to zenocracy.news, Zenocracy, that's the name of our community. You don't have to subscribe to the community to watch. You can watch the video. It's up there. It's not behind a paywall. If you would like to subscribe, there's a free subscription. We would love it. I would love to have you be part of the community. The more the community grows, the better. If it's something that you're comfortable with and you're inspired to do, there's a paid subscription option as well, which helps me do the work that I'm doing. It'll be there. I want to give something a little special to the Substack community because that's our hub. It'll be on Substack for the next day or two exclusively, and then I'll move the piece. I'll put a version of it up on my YouTube channel as well. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. That's how we get through it. I know it seems crazy, but we're almost a year and a half into this fucking madness. We'll make it to the midterms, and then somehow we'll make it through, the next 2 years. I'll see you all soon. Thanks so much. I'm going to end. I just have to shut the lives down separately. So Instagram, I'm going to wrap you guys first because I have to end the live video by pushing an extra button, and then I'll wrap everybody else. So Instagram, thank you for being here, guys, and I will see you soon. Okay, so Instagram has left the building. Everyone else, thank you. I'll see you soon. Be well. Some weirdness happened, and I ended the live, but it didn't really end. I hit the wrong buttons here in Ecamm. Now I'm going to hit the right ones.